So Omni-Man and Invincible just conquered Earth and wiped out the Rebellion in Season 2 of Invincible. But could the Rebellion have won against the two Viltrumights? I have multiple ways on how the Rebellion could have beaten Invincible and Omni-Man, because I've replayed this fight way more times than I should have. So just hear me out. Firstly, the Rebellion did a lot wrong in this fight. Like, I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw some of this stuff. Like, what was my boy thinking he could take both Mark and Nolan in this fight? I can understand Invincible because, well, in my eyes, Immortal was winning that fight until... And by the way, this man's was obviously not thinking about distracting or luring them away, because they showed up right after they killed him. Also, he definitely could have ran away from Mark, because Omni-Man didn't turn up until the very end. So what he could have done is hit Mark, fly down, put on a disguise, make sure he's not being followed, and make his way back home. Or, just a suggestion, don't get caught. What sort of shenanigans were they up to that they had to sacrifice the Immortal? Also, if you don't want them finding out where the hideout is, you should have a scout that would signal in or radio whenever the two Viltrumights are in the radius of the hideout, so everyone could just go quiet, because they have super hearing. How else do you think they found the secret hideout? Do you think they just decided to go headfirst into solid concrete for fun? Just because you can't be seen doesn't mean you can't be heard. It's exactly like what happened in World War Z. I remember that scene really well because the people were so arrogant and stupid, and it gave me nightmares. Another thing, what is bro doing in this suit? Honestly, what protection could that ever give him? Half the thing is made out of glass, and it's not even like a Lex Luthor thing where it's just some energy shield showing off his ego. And you'd think, seeing that his job is basically just being in danger, he would have a better suit. But honestly, I can't wrap my head around why it's just glass. Yes, I know he can't see through most materials, but he could make something like Titanfall. If he had one of those, he would look way cooler. But no, he's in this looking like a victim. Anyway, Atomiev can make him a better suit, if not give him the materials to make one himself. Because what chance would he stand in that rust bucket? Now, I know he can't match the strength of a Viltrumite, but he could definitely be more agile. I'll talk about that later. The other mistake they made is that they used this damn gun once. Seriously, what was he doing? One shot. This is supposed to be the thing that defeats Omni-Man, and one shot is all you can muster. Are you kidding me? Also, people died distracting and luring away Invincible and Omni-Man so they can get this gun, and he only used it once. You know what? Omni-Man was right.
You should have died at birth.
Now, what they did right was only one thing, but they split them up. This is huge because it would have the number advantage on them, and they'll be a lot weaker because the strongest member of the Rebellion couldn't handle a 2v1 situation, and the Immortal definitely has the abilities and experience to make a difference in this fight, but not when he's by himself. He definitely doesn't make a difference then. Okay, so we have these people for prep time. He's here because he didn't fight them, he took them to the arena instead. And yes, I know they don't have the purple energy yet, but Immortal got it while taking them to the arena. The arena in question will have traps, like these boom things the crazy old fella had. They don't have to be the exact same thing, but they have to work in the same way, which is creating a blast which will move the target it is aimed at, which would then open them up for an attack or save a member of the Rebellion that's being attacked. The other thing would be high frequency speakers. Yes, I know it's their weakness, but they don't know that high frequency speakers are commonly used to daze people or shock them like a flashbang. But it just so happens that it's the Viltrumite's biggest weakness, or at least one of them. Just look at what happened to Mark in episode 2. He was massively struggling against that big lobster after that vocal attack, but then he had a breather and ate him up for dinner. Also, the evil Invincible would be way weaker than the current Invincible that we have, because the way Viltrumites get stronger isn't through working out, but through fighting, or getting folded. Whatever you want to call it, battle makes them stronger, and Evil Mark missed out on arguably the biggest fight of his life, because his dad persuaded him into joining the Viltrum Empire before showing him how a train works. Also, you can see his arrogance in all these fights, which means that Omni-Man was hyping up Mark before his fights with the other superheroes, because Omni-Man has a huge superiority complex, because he called humans animals, and, you know, every other superhero is basically a human, and especially the way he looked at the superhero squad. So obviously all the hype went to Mark's head, which is crazy because when Omni-Man's not there, Mark is getting folded. So Omni-Man was definitely helping out when Mark was losing, like when we saw with his fight with the Immortal. Or Omni-Man wanted to speed it up because he wanted to get some lunch. So using these stun guns would be the key to fighting the two Viltrumites, and it would allow to give heavy pieces of damage because of the high frequency speakers. But they got lucky, they're not getting the Scourge virus or anything goofy. So Immortal will be mostly dealing with Omni-Man because he's the most seasoned fighter on the field, and to be honest, we need a lot of people against Omni-Man to stand a good chance. And yes, I know Immortal died in all of the fights he had with Omni-Man, but there are some good reasons. Like in the first fight, he was holding back because he didn't think Omni-Man would actually be doing this. Even after killing the discount Flash, he still thought Omni-Man was under mind control. And don't forget, they didn't have a plan at all, they got jumped. But we all saw that they worked together in the first episode, so it was obvious that they just didn't understand the situation. The second fight, he just lost. He got a good hit in with the eye gouge. I mean, if he kept going with that, Omni-Man probably would have died. But he wasn't thinking straight with all the betrayal. The last thing he remembers is getting his head taken off by Omni-Man. That was seconds ago to him, so he was fuming. For the last fight, it's pretty obvious he was caught off guard. And when he decided to take on the both of them, he only had one arm. And don't forget, before he lost that arm, he was weakened from fighting Mark. But if Immortal can get behind Omniman, or at least away from his hands, and he gets an eye gouge in and holds it, that'll be the key to defeating Omniman. But he's gonna end up screaming for help, and that will get Mark involved. And that brings us to Atom Eve. Her main goal will be trying to mentally bring back Mark, because for the whole fight, Mark was begging her to be with him. And if he was really about the mission, he wouldn't even be wasting his time on her. He would just find a nice girl from Viltrum and marry her. Because I know this version of Mark is done with Amber. Get her out of here! She's lucky to even have him in the main timeline. Because didn't she try to cheat on Mark? Well, technically, but she snapped out of it. But Mark didn't know about that. But if I was him, after that whole fly away flyboy stunt, she would have been gone. So Eve will try and bring him back to her side by making him realize that he's wrong. She would ask him about his mother and what she would think about this. And that he was born and raised on Earth, which makes him human. And that he should be protecting these people, and that his blood doesn't make him who he is. And it's not too late to come back from the dark side and join the Republic, baby. Let's go! Woo! Yeah, buddy! But this is a whole different Mark. We don't know how the whole Viltrum's a pretty cool empire, you should join it conversation went between him and his father. Either it happened after Omniman killed the Immortal for the second time, and then he just persuaded Mark then, because there were some times when Omniman made a couple points about the Viltrum empire that made Mark look like he was thinking about joining. Or Mark got his powers at a very young age, which would make him a danger to his mum. Because he'll be so strong, he could accidentally crush her with a hug, which means she couldn't nurture or raise Mark at all, which would completely cut out Debbie from the equation, which means he could only be influenced through Omniman. And seeing that Mark's already becoming a Viltrumite, Omniman decides to manipulate him by making him feel that he's not human, making him feel like an alien on this planet, and that he has a different purpose that can only be fulfilled by serving Viltrum. And Omniman would continue to make Mark feel this way by raising him the Viltrumite way, trying to pass on this culture towards him. So when his time finally comes to fulfill his purpose, Mark will jump at the opportunity. Hopefully it's not that timeline. Also, while Eve is trying to bring back Mark, it would be great if she could support the other heroes with her powers. Also, why doesn't she have any armor? Because she can make it, and it has so many advantages. And why doesn't she make weapons for everyone else? It's not that difficult to make a blunt or sharp object, like the discount Wonder Woman had, because that did a lot of damage. But there is a chance that Omniman could take it and start breaking some jaws, so you could probably lay off the weapons. But you should still make armor. This would give the Immortal so much more of an advantage, because now he doesn't have to worry about Omniman trying to tickle his spine. Now for Robot, we're going to give him a nice new suit. Yes, we're using prep time. Not like Batman prep time where he can just win for no reason, but this actually makes sense. We're gonna have Atom Eve make the materials for the suit, and don't forget she can make anything from anything. And we're gonna have the actual robot doing the technology. I'm no scientist, but I'm gonna say we're just gonna use some strong metal. But the goal for this suit is for it to be more agile than the Viltrumites, so we can dodge all of their attacks. And seeing that the main mistake was giving the human robot this gun, we're gonna give it to this one who is completely AI, and we're just gonna call it Germa. And he will have an insane frame rate, higher than any human, which means he'll be able to dodge any Viltrumite attack because he'll see it from a mile away. And on the occasions he doesn't, the strong metal will be able to protect him from that. Also, seeing that he's AI, his aim will be immaculate. He'll also have X-ray vision and all the other types of visions to tell that Omniman wasn't dead after one shot. So for Germa, he'll be bouncing around firing his gun at the two Viltrumites, and Immortal will be throwing as many hands as he can, so that Germa can lock onto him. Now for the human robot, he'll mostly be standing behind cover, making sure he doesn't get hit in his Titanfall armor. He'll obviously have both the high frequency and the boom gun, so we can open up the two Viltrumites for a heavy attack. And with Eve's powers and robot skills, why don't they just make cyborgs again? They don't have to be exactly the same, but they should be similar, because I don't know what sort of dog they had in them, but it was big enough to make Omniman and Mark struggle. So if we have them, some more robots with the Germa AI, some high frequency guns, and some boom guns, we should stand a good chance. If anything, they'll just be sacrifices so that the main heroes can take a breather or strategize. But there is one huge thing I haven't spoken about in this entire video, who if used properly could either turn the tide or end the fight in seconds, and they were wasted, not used once. Well, technically once. It was a subscribe button. I'm kidding. But if you could please subscribe, that would mean the world to me. Okay, it was this idiot. Why was he not cooking in this fight at all? He has the power to open portals in different dimensions. Why didn't he fight or even bother using his powers? Maybe this wasn't the version with powers. Okay, let's just say it wasn't. But my point still stands. Why did he not help his other variants at all? Here's some things he could have done with his powers. He could take the resistance to a different dimension, so they're either safer or they can research how to defeat the Viltrumites. Unless they have some sort of Spider-Verse glitch thing where if it carries on you die. And if that's the case, you'd also also have the traumatized Spider-Man trying to send you back to your canon events. But one of the things they could find in that universe is the Scourge virus, which wiped out 1/3 of the Viltrumite population, and what it does, it completely drains the Viltrumite of their powers and then kills them afterwards. This would completely wipe out any Viltrumite as a threat because it has not been cured. I don't think so. But finding this could take a while, so by the time you found it, they might have already invaded Earth completely. Or he could just do some Doctor Strange stuff to Omniman and Mark, either chopping off their limbs or taking them to a bad universe, like that sidekick did in episode 2. But you know, you should probably just leave him there instead of mocking him, because that doesn't end out well. Oh, and there's one more thing they could have done. He could get some Mauler twins, to be more precise, all of them, and get them to fight, or at least help fight Omniman and Mark. But how would you do this? I'm thinking you do something similar to this. Help them out, give them a couple compliments, or just strike up a deal with them, and then get them to fight, because Mark was getting beaten by the Mauler twins. And yes, there were obviously some reasons why Mark lost. One of them being he wasn't trying to fight them, he was trying to turn off the machine. But this reminds me of what one of my least favorite Spider-Man said. If you have the power to do something and you don't, the blood is on your hands too. So hey, the reason the Resistance lost was his fault, but he's only here to be the main villain and to start the Invincible War. Also, did you know that only cool people are subscribed to this channel? So please like and subscribe and watch this video right here. I'm sure you'll love it, and see ya.